Okay, I have to confess something. I like games with weird premises. I don't mean it in its literal sense, although I quite enjoyed Pony Island and Just Punk, but rather games with premises, stories, or mechanics that you rarely see in the AAA industry. Games that could very well be Perfect Days, a movie that I'm sure if I told you the synopsis, you wouldn't go to the movies to watch it. And yet, it is an incredible film. Same goes for these video games. Some are pretty wild and out there, and other ones have managed to conquer the hearts of many players around the world. So without further ado, let's check these 7 games that should be boring, but instead are incredible. Lucas Pope cult hit indie gem Papers, Please is perhaps the epitome of this type of video game that I'm trying to describe in this video. In Papers, Please, you incarnate a border administration officer in an isolationist authoritarian regime called Artotska. And since the border just recently opened, your job is to read carefully the documentation each person brings you to determine whether or not everything is filled out correctly, or if that passport is for fake and they are trying to scam you. Okay, ignore for a second the incredible success Papers, Please has had and imagine yourself as a video game executive, hearing this 60-second pitch in an elevator next to Lucas Pope. The for fake stuff sounds vaguely intriguing, but what else could this game have? It just sounds so tedious, so boring, so bureaucratic. And yet, it is addictive how fun this game is, and it became a YouTube phenomenon on release, spawning several games that, inspired by it, decided to put a twist of their own. But Papers, Please is on another level, man. The game paints a nuanced and complex landscape of how authoritarian regimes work, and, most importantly, how paranoia influenced the behavior of everyone living under these oppressive regimes. Morality becomes a gray area covered in a mist of excuses, and it was one of the first times in which moral choices introduced in a video game weren't reduced to a binary choice in which it is very clear what the game understands for good and what for evil. I do believe this game is perfect, in the sense that it does not have anything that is unpurposeful, nor something pivotally missing, and the sum of its parts makes it the greatest authoritarian bureaucrat game out there, I guess. Talking about all these games, one cannot help but wonder that sometimes video games can be an expensive hobby, as there are so many beautiful games to play that not anyone can afford. But thanks to today's sponsor, Instant Gaming, your wallet can be relieved. Our official partner for the month offers crazy discounts to get games cheaper, and during this weekend they are going all out with their Black Friday deals. I mean, most of them are insane. Persona 3 Reload for just $30, Frostpunk 2 at 50% discount, Balatro for less than $10. I mean, come on. You can grab them all until Monday ends as part of their Black Friday season, so give it a look because there are some games in there at ridiculous prices, and if you use our affiliate link, you will be supporting the channel. Thanks once again to Instant Gaming for sponsoring the video, and back to, quote-unquote, the boring games. In 2022, Hideo Kojima appeared in the Summer Games Fest to talk about technology for 15 seconds, go on a diatribe about 9/11, he then released Death Stranding again, refused to elaborate, and left. The man is a genius. And so, if you haven't yet, what a great moment to try out the first Stranding type game. I remember back on launch, everyone mocked this game by calling it the Amazon Delivery Simulator. But soon enough, and with some health-related issue threatening the world back then, Death Stranding was praised soon enough by how it presented the experience of crossing a rough terrain on your own. Everyone likes to commentate from time to time that Kojima is a movie director wannabe. I mean, even he says it occasionally. But I think that despite his famous 30-minute cutscenes and all that ego trip with the constant credits on the Phantom Pain, This man is great at designing and conceptualizing mechanics and gameplay, intertwining them with whatever he's trying to tell in their games. In Death Stranding, running, carrying packages, crossing a river, surpassing a cliff, or falling down a hill are actions deeply rooted in a complex set of mechanics that are designed to reflect the feeling that revolves around doing that activity. As a result, what should be in paper a boring game about delivering packages becomes a beautiful experience of witty traversal of the terrain, contemplation and reflection while navigating gorgeous landscapes and helping each other as a community. Things that I don't feel any game has replicated whatsoever. Maybe this one is less known, but I do believe What Remains of Edith Finch is a truly beautiful game, in which you basically walk around your family house remembering how your related ones met their ends. Yeah, it doesn't sound that cool, right? But the Finch have each one a special gameplay segment that mix up genres and are just so creative that it still plays on my mind almost a decade later. I generally don't want to talk too much about this one because it is best to let it surprise you. But I'm just going to say that there is a moment in which you work at a fish factory that is one of the craziest and coolest segments I've ever played in a video game. And the way it makes you empathize with that character is beyond impressive. What Remains of Edith Finch is a gem, so go get it.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
Well, I couldn't have said it any better. Who would want to play a game about a corporate deadbeat that has slept on the job and now once he has woken up, there's no one left at the workplace? Dog Dog's brother, Davey, has created a wonderful experience that talks about free will, video games as an art, and how we interact with them. But above all, they managed to do all that while still making the game funny. Seriously, the Stanley Parable is hilarious, and there is something so pure about upsetting the narrator and contradicting his story. Man, the game goes so deep into some paths you can take that it is genuinely a mandatory experience for everyone who loves video games. And speaking of being a little naughty, in this game, you control a goose and do goose stuff. What is that? I'm not sure, but it is most certainly evil. Untitled Goose Game is one of those titles that are difficult to describe why they are so good. Yes, you control a goose, and you have to solve little puzzles, I guess, to progress the story, but the soul of the game is to goose around, be a little bit mean, and stare at people and whisper to them. Fuck around and find out what this little birdie fella will do as revenge. It's a simple concept, but so well executed, so refreshing and laid back that it feels it was made to play on a Friday night with some snacks on the couch. Okay, have you seen A Beautiful Mind? If not, I recommend it to you. It is a great film. For those who have, picture yourself in that movie but trapped in an island full of puzzles to solve, where you'll slowly go mad trying to connect the dots and the lines to the dots and the dots to the lines, and the end is never the end, is never the end, is never the end, is never the end. Well, The Witness is just that. Walk around an island to connect some dots with each other on some panels. That's it. Boring, right? Heck no. The puzzles are really interesting if you're into it. But the main thing this game has is the 180 pulse halfway through that, which expands your brain into a Galaxy Edition one. I'm not going to spoil it, but when it happens, you will know. And it recontextualizes the whole game, and it also escapes it into a reality, and now everything you'll ever see is dots and lines and dots and lines. This one perhaps doesn't sound as boring as the rest of these do on a first impression, but it is a video game that's stored deep within my heart. Sayonara Wild Hearts tells the story of a girl dealing with a breakup, and to do just that, she does some random stuff while imagining her past experience with her exes, I guess. I'm not sure of it. Yeah, it's sort of like musical Scott Pilgrim, you could say that, yeah. Musical Scott Pilgrim. But Sayonara Wild Heart is also a combination of most of the things I like in this. Unique mechanics, some of them really creative for each level you play in, a beautiful score that still haunts me to this day, an art direction so stunning it is ludicrous how sharp it looks, and the sum of it makes you feel warm on the soul. If you haven't tried it, make sure to check it out, because it's unbelievably comfy to play it. And those were some games with premises that sound boring, but they are actually incredible. Do you know any game that falls into this category? I do think it's important we have titles like this, and I'm glad that the indie scene has gained so much momentum since the early 2010s. So I cannot wait to play the next masterpiece in which you play as a, as a tax inspector, for example. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and until we meet again.